So today, Wargaming has announced that they are going to be doing a new crew perk system. Now there is one thing to point out here though, this is not crew 2.0. There isn't any other changes being said in here other than just the perk changes. So for everyone commenting saying, oh well there should be 3 tanks for 1 crew, this isn't the point of this video. So there's no point writing that because they've already said that they're working on that. This is purely just the perk changes and what they would like to see in the game, or how they envision it. So let's watch the video together, and then we'll give our opinion at the end.
We are starting to test large-scale improvements to crew perks. This is an early test designed to check that we're moving in the right direction. We haven't created a new crew system, but rather developed the existing one. Let's call it a serious evolution.
One thing to note, this is what a lot of people wanted. Because I feel like in Crew 2.0, they kind of just pushed it on us and then we all backfired and, you know, as a community just said, no, this is not what we want. But we want the crew system to stay the same, but just some small changes or maybe some extra perks and whatnot. So hopefully this is, you know, it seems to be what we're looking for.
There are many new features, but it's easier to figure everything out than you might expect. So let's get to it. Now, each crew member has just 6 slots for main perks. 0 perks also come under this limit. Meanwhile, the key benefit of 0 perks remains. They do not raise the price of experience for subsequent ones. Directives will also not help get around the limit, since they can't give the effect of a 7th perk if only 6 have been trained. That said, they can always strengthen already trained ones.
A lot of people might not like that. However, I don't really see the problem in this. A lot of people didn't train. I mean, for example, I don't know whether or not this is going to work if, for example, you're training a 2-skill crew and then you want to put a directive on it. Because if you then put a directive, say, for example, safe stowage, let's say you're in a tank that gets ammo racked a lot, you run repairs and then you're training the 2nd perk, which might be like Brothers in Arms or something, but you still want to have safe stowage. Hopefully you can still use that up until the 7th or the 6th perk has been trained. Hopefully. We'll have to see.
There is good news for crew members who fulfill several roles at once. It is a bonus perk system. If a crew member has a secondary qualification, it will be trained alongside the major one. It has just 3 perks. To fully train a perk for an additional qualification, you need to train 2 perks for the major one. Bonus perks do not increase the total training time, no matter how many there are.
So, what this is saying, a lot of people have said that they don't want it to just be 6 crew skills. It's not 6 crew skills. It is only 6 crew skills if you only have that qualification. For example, in the Manticore here, the commander can actually get 12 skills, which means that you would have 6 as your base, and then with these extra perks, the bonus perks, each time that you train 2 crew skills, you can then get 1 extra. So you'll still be able to train situational awareness and recon at the same time, and so on and so forth. If we actually go ahead and go into game quickly, you'll see that in here, Vinnie Jones, for example, which is quite funny because I have Vinnie Jones twice, but Vinnie Jones, for example, would have the 6 skills as a commander, and then I would have the selection of 3 perks here and 3 perks here. Obviously, these are being subject to change and whatnot, so it's not going to be exactly this, but you will be able to get 12 skills on your commander in a Manticore, and then that also means you'll be able to get 9 skills as your secondary person who is the driver, but also the loader.
Now, each qualification has a choice of 3 group and 6 individual perks. You will have plenty to choose from because we've added 15 new ones. For instance, practicality for a commander reduces cooldown time.
This is actually probably the biggest thing, right? Because, let's be honest, depending on what tank you're in, you're going to want Brothers in Arms, you're going to want repairs or concealment. And majority of the time you kind of want both if you're in a light tank. So this could be slightly annoying in regards of if I want, say, Brothers in Arms and repairs, which on a heavy tank you want, you would only then be able to choose another 4 perks from each person. So you would get, say, recon, situational awareness, and so on and so forth. So it can kind of be annoying in that way. However, I think that limiting everything down to 6, and there's only 6 per category, actually makes this fine. Because a lot of them are kind of just useless. I'm not going to lie. A lot of them are just, why would I bother with practicality? Why would I bother with quick aiming? It doesn't really give much in regards to what everything else would. So even though that I can only choose 6, plus another 3 if I got another crew member assigned to the same person, it's still fine, in my opinion.
For consumables, the old perks have been rebalanced. Some have become more useful, for example, sound detection. Firefighting is now an individual radio operator perk.
That's what we
you
wanted.
Don't need to train the whole crew in it. Some perks have remained unchanged. In total, each crew member only has 9 perks to choose from and just 6 slots.
Bearing in mind, that does now mean if you're in a KV5, I'm pretty sure if you're in a KV5 and you get that R2-D2 turret knocked out where your radio operator is, you'll no longer have firefighting if you get set on fire. I don't know for sure, so don't quote me on that, but that could be the case.
For their major qualification. Which ones to train and which ones not to is up to you. All perks of duplicated qualifications now only work fully when each crew member has them. Let's say you have 2 loaders and you've trained a perk for one of them, it will only work at 50% efficiency. This is to balance vehicles with small and large crews. After you've trained all 6 main perks, the aces will be able to train your cadets. Half of the base experience your 6-perk tankers earn will be counted toward post-progression. Get 100,000 XP and you will receive a universal training guide that will help you train new crews.
So once you have fully trained your crew, but you keep playing it, you're now going to earn XP towards a universal crew book, which is nice because then you can use that crew book on anything. Remember, this doesn't have to be the nation that you're getting it from. So if you have a fully trained crew, you could just continue playing your favorite tank, gaining the crew XP, and then putting that into a universal crew book to put onto a different vehicle, which could be very, very good, especially if you're a free-to-play player that can't get, all this crew training or whatever from premium vehicles. You could just play your favorite tanks and do it this way. Sure, you're going to have to already get a maxed out crew, but this is still an option.
During the test and for some time after the update's release, resetting perks will be free.
Good.
If you want to reset the perks of many crew members at once, you can use the new buttons in the barracks.
Yep.
The first one
exactly the same as when we had the crew books conversion for the no longer 50, 75 and 100% crews. You better go into your barracks, and as you can see from here,
resets the perks of all your crew members, and the second one automatically fills empty perk slots.
So this one, reset perks for everybody. Absolutely everyone in your barracks, including the ones that are in vehicles currently, will be reset. And then untrained perks will then, I guess, be everybody else that's not in a vehicle? I'm not sure.
To set crew members to your playstyle, it's best to reassign perks manually for the crews of your favourite vehicles. 0 perks can now also be reset. You can choose several at once in the perk selection window. Head to the game portal, go to the news article about the updated system and sign up for testing.
Okay. Thank you very much. So now let's go through this, shall we? Where we can actually get some more information. So, new perks. Familiarize yourself with the new highlighted perks below. So, obviously, a lot of stuff has been changed, including the base perks. For example, Recon increases view range by 2% and reduces the penalty to damage observation devices by 20%. Now, I thought that was already like that. Did they change Recon so that the base view range has been changed? 1 second. Increasing the view range by 2.3%, that's because I have Brothers in Arms. If the observation devices are damaged, the effect will be increased up to 23%. This is exactly the same as before, no? That is exactly the same. Unless I'm just tripping or something. Mentor did get a buff, which is very, very nice. It basically got the Jack of all trades put into Mentor. So this now means that increase the amount of XP by all crew members, which is how we have it before, or have right now, and it enables the commander to replace a knocked out crew member with 65% effectiveness. But you also have some stuff in here where you just think, what? Like, for example, emergency increases the crew efficiency bonus by 7.5% for 15 seconds after taking enemy damage. The effect does not stack. What? Why? Like, the thing is, a lot of these perks that make the tank better, we don't need in the game. With stuff like this affects Brothers in Arms, which makes the whole tank better. This is basically a 7.5% bonus to what Brothers in Arms gives. So that means that it'll be 7.5% of the 5% for Brothers in Arms. Right? And then it'll become better. Which, why? Like, we need the game to slow down, not speed up. Okay, and then this sort of stuff where you just take some damage and then your tank instantly becomes better for 15 seconds and it doesn't seem to have a cooldown either. What is that? Because basically that means that if you're in a mouse, you could just absorb the hit and your tank is 7.5% better. That doesn't make any sense. And then you have stuff like the coordination where it's kind of just useless majority of the time. I mean, maybe for tanks like a Barask where you could actually spot someone and then get this bonus because your aim speed is awful. But increasing the aim speed by 12.5% for 15 seconds after you spot an enemy vehicle is a little bit kind of... A lot of these perks seem a bit gimmicky, in my opinion. Whereas the standard ones that we have at the moment are the true kind of MVP, if you will. Right, where you're going to probably end up just picking them anyway. Like, I'm never going to choose practicality. That 7.5% is not enough for me to go ahead and use that. This basically just means that I have 83 seconds cooldown instead of 90. So, what's the point? Like, either they buff this massively and give it like 30% cooldown reduction or something, or nobody was going to pick it. I mean, sure, you also need to take into consideration that Brothers in Arms and Vents will boost all of these up as well. So this 7.5% would actually be more like 9% or something. So you've got to take all of that into consideration. Moving on to the Gunner perks. Deadeye has been changed. This basically just means that it is now for every single shell in the game. It is no longer just AP and APCR as well as Heat. It is now for HE too. So FVs and everything else, you're probably going to get more fires, you're more ammo racks, which I'm sure will make the game absolutely lovely to play. Nothing else has been changed apart from Deadeye, and concentration, quick aiming, and armorer are apparently all new, even though that armorer is definitely not a new perk, but the way that it's been restructured, it definitely has. So this actual like orange reworked perk should have been here as well. But Armorer now does reduce the potential damage and potential penetration to plus minus 20%, as well as decreasing the gun dispersion by 1.5%. Now beforehand, what did Armorer actually do? Reduce the penalty to accuracy of a damaged gun by 20%. So this is actually a massive nerf to Armorer because it no longer does anything regarding a damaged gun. However, at the same time, a lot of people are going to say, well, armor at the moment is useless because how many times you get a damaged gun, and when you do, you just go ahead and repair it anyway. So there's two sides to it, I guess. But you need to be careful about this one, because even though that it negates some of the RNG in the game, it will actually negate the maximum high roll that you can do as well. So you need to watch out for that, because as much as you might say, oh yeah, I love less RNG, sometimes you will not go as high as you want to. Your max roll is going to come down when you use this. So this is not an insanely good perk, but it will probably help you out more times than not. So on average, you should roll more consistent to the average roll, but we'll see if this is actually worth it. I mean, what else would you really take as a gunner? Snapshot, yes. Deadeye, yes. Obviously, you would want Brothers in Arms Concealment or Repairs. Depending on what tank you have, you might actually want to choose all three of these. But if you're choosing all three of these, usually that's a light tank. So if you're not going to be in a light tank, then maybe you can get rid of Concealment. So you have Brothers in Arms, Repairs, and then you could choose 4 of these. So you could pick Armorer in that case. Unless you have a very, very bad aim time and you want to improve that. So this is not too bad. Designated target, still very useful, especially if you are playing light tanks. Now, concentration is a weird one because it decreases the gun dispersion of a stationary vehicle by 3.5%. The effect starts 3 seconds after the vehicle stops, which I believe is the same amount of time as binos and camo net. So you would become more accurate when you're stationary, which is useful for tank destroyers, but at the same time, it's 3.5%. Are you going to notice it? I've already mentioned about 3.5% with the dispersion values and all of that, so I'm not going to go into all of that again. But will you notice it? Probably not. But for some people, they'll want it. Now, for the driver, the only real ones that have changed from before is off-road driving and controlled impact. Now, controlled impact increases the ramming damage to enemy vehicles by 20% and reduces the damage that you get from other vehicles by 25%, and your suspension by 50%. So this means that it's even better than before, because beforehand it would be, I think that's 20%, right? Yeah, it's still being trained. So increases the ramming damage to enemy vehicles by 20% and decreases the ramming damage that you can receive by 20%. So this now makes it so your tracks will survive as well, which is super useful, because how many times have you been rammed by someone when you're trying to get away and they don't have the shot out, but they just quickly go into your tracks and then it just tracks you and then that's it, you're out of the game. So this could actually be very, very useful in that respect. So controlled impact actually getting buffed. It also means that you get an extra 5% reduction in damage that you receive from ramming as well. So this, I think, is going to be one of those ones that you definitely want to take, because the other ones are meh. Like reliable placement increases the HE shell damage absorption by 7.5% and decreases the damage received by falling by 30%. Who is falling off of things this often that they need a perk for it? Engineer, this is probably useful only on very, very slow tanks. This is actually, you know what? Engineer is actually very useful for German tanks, because the penalty to damage engine, the amount of time your engine gets damaged, that 20% will actually be quite useful. So engineer, especially on a mouse, Type 5 heavy, stuff that is really slow, the extra 1 kilometer an hour, sure, it's only 1 kilometer an hour. You're not really going to notice it, but it will help out. This is definitely not game breaking by any means, but you'll probably want it on those types of tanks. And off-road driving also got changed, reduces the speed lost on moderately soft terrain and makes the speed loss on soft terrain equal to 100% of the resulting value. Beforehand, this was reduced speed lost by 12, let's say, I think that's 10% on soft terrain and 3% on moderately soft terrain. So this now means that you're actually getting a massive boost to soft terrain when you pick this, but you're actually getting less of a boost on that moderately soft terrain. So this is basically just getting a flat out buff, and now it's even better. So 100% you should be taking this thing, even though on tanks that don't need it, you should still take it, because your traverse speed increases when you have better terrain resistances. And especially if you're choosing the right side field mod on heavy tanks, that could, be that kind of 50-50 region where they might take a little bit off the top speed. This should now just make sure that it doesn't do that at all. So for heavy tanks, brothers in arms, repairs, off-road driving, engineer, controlled impact, well, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you can pick probably smooth ride, and there's your 6 perks for your driver. So you see what I mean so far about these, where a lot of the time you don't need those extra perks. So them actually limiting it down to 6, one, just evens the playing field for everybody, meaning that someone else is not going to have 9 perks while you only have 4. For example, me and my chieftain over here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 skills, okay? Like, my tank is going to be better than the other chief if they have 2 skills, or even in the S-Conk. This is actually my S-Conk crew. But there you go, okay? Like, this is unbelievable how much XP has been put into this, and time and effort. And because I can just quickly switch them into any premium vehicle, imagine if I put this in a Carnarvon Action 10, for example, right? It's just flat out better than the other person. Whereas with this new one, I'm going to be limited to 6, the other person will be limited to 6, and the only real difference is a few extras, which they will get over time. And those extra perks that you'll be missing when you have 6 skills is not really going to be that useful. For the loader, a few perks have been changed as well. Adrenaline Rush is getting a buff and a nerf at the same time, where you get nerfed because your decrease in the gun reload time is no longer 10%, it is now 5%, and it's getting kind of buffed because if your vehicle is now under 25% of its hit points, it will activate rather than the 10% that it is at the moment. Safe storage is getting a pretty big buff as well. It is now 25% instead of the 10, 15% or whatever it is at the moment. So this should actually help out a lot of tanks that do suffer from the weak ammo rack, especially if you get it and then put a directive on top. It will be very, very good indeed. Looking at you, 60 TP. And intuition will be decreasing the time for changing the shell by 60%, and you are going to have to train both of these to be able to use them. So if you have 2 loaders, both the loaders need to have intuition for it to be able to work. As you saw in the video, it is only going to be 50% effective if you only have 1 loader with it. Now, there's going to be 3 new perks that are in the loader. They have Perfect Charge, which increases the shell velocity by 10%. I'm not going to lie to you, that is pretty useless. Like, sure, my Leo will now have 1,700 shell velocity on the premium rounds instead of 1,600. Amazing. Yes. Am I going to notice that? Absolutely not. Like, it's just one of those things where, fine, but I wouldn't recommend anybody to pick it. However, this close combat thing is kind of interesting. Decreases the gun reload time by 2.5% at the distance of 50 meters or less from the enemy vehicle. Now, do you know what new vehicle got added recently that requires it to be less than 50 meters from the enemy and has insane DPM if it is 50 meters less from the enemy? So that means that the Blitzgewisker is going to get a 2.5% bonus to its DPM when it's at 50 meters. And it already has like 4,000 DPM. What? Now, of course, if you are 51 meters, this perk is then completely useless. So I'm not saying that this is going to break the game or anything, but this is kind of a bit like, I could see how this could be abused in some respects, especially considering there's a lot of corridor maps where you are actually fighting quite close. And if you just go in with one of these Polish TDs, you're going to wreak havoc in that kind of respect. But at the same time, as I said, it is very situational when you get into those positions. So this is not going to be used all the time. And more times than not, you're not going to be within 50 meters. So I'd probably recommend people not to take this, to be honest. Especially considering that you'll be wanting to have safe storage and intuition, regardless of what tank you're in, as well as repairs and brothers in arms. That then means that you have 2 more perks that you could choose from. You could have 1, 2, 3, 4, obviously 2 more being 5, 6. So that means that you probably want Adrenaline Rush, maybe. Depends. You probably could just not use it, but now that it's 25%, that's going to be kind of nice. Or you could use ammo tuning, which increases the minimum potential damage and the minimum potential penetration by 2%. I'm not going to lie, I'd probably pick that. Like, I would probably pick ammo tuning and maybe close combat, just in case, over Adrenaline Rush. But at the same time, if I'm going to be choosing concealment, I'm definitely choosing ammo tuning over close combat, because this is a 100% all the time kind of thing. This is only a some of the time, especially if it's a medium where I said I want to have brothers in arms, concealment and repairs. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now for the radio operator, where this is going to get a little bit complicated, because the radio operator is now becoming one of the most useful people in the crew. You get situational awareness still, that is not being changed. Increases view range by 3%. Firefighting is now on the radio operator, which means that you want to have situational awareness, firefighting, repairs, brothers in arms on absolutely everyone that can pick a radio operator. However, the radio operator is usually tied to someone else. It's kind of rare to actually have a radio operator on their own, which means that majority of the time you're only going to be able to pick 3 from this, meaning that you'll have firefighting, and situational awareness, and then one of these other ones. For example, in my 279, the radio operator is the commander, so I would only be able to pick 3. On the Gorilla 15, this actually has a radio operator, so I'd be able to pick 6 perks on it, but again, I'd want to have Brothers in Arms, Repairs, and Concealment, and then I can pick 3 more. So it's still going to be kind of the same thing. In the Leo, again, this is the commander. In the 452K, the commander. In the 260, it's the commander. In the 50B, it is the loader. So a lot of the time, you don't actually have the radio operator. In the 60TP, it's the commander. So you need to take that in consideration when you're looking at some of these perks. How often is it that that is a standalone person in the crew? Because if they're not a standalone person, you can only pick 3, and that can then lead into a few issues. So 100%, you want firefighting and situational awareness, which means that you can then only realistically pick 1 more, or maybe 2, depending if you have a standalone crew member. So there are 4 new perks. And I want to start off with jamming, because if this goes into the game and Onslaught hasn't been changed, this will mean that you will never be able to spot someone in Onslaught if they're a light tank with a radio as well. Unless they use a plane, of course. Because jamming decreases the time that your vehicle remains spotted by 1 second. In Onslaught, the spotting time is 3 seconds. And I'm 100% here. They couldn't have overlooked this, right? The new Onslaught season must have no longer this spotting mechanic, because this would actually break the game if they did this. The radio set decreases it by 2 seconds in the correct slot. Onslaught has a spotting time of 3 seconds, and then with this, you would have a vehicle remaining spotting of -3 seconds. So it would get spotted or instantly just not spotted. So I'm guessing that the next season of Onslaught is going to have a higher spotting time, because otherwise this is completely broken. But again, would I pick this? Probably not, unless I'm in Onslaught. So, no. Side by side increases the crew efficiency bonus by 2.5% if you are 50 meters or less from an allied vehicle of the same type. Now, I'm guessing they mean type being class, so that's good, I guess. If you maintain with your heavy tanks and you're a heavy tank, then you get 2.5%. Now, does this stack? For example, does it, if I'm next to 2 heavy tanks, do I get 5% bonus? It doesn't say anything in there. I'm guessing no, and it will just be a flat 2.5%, but you never know. However, now moving on to Radio Expert, and this is where I think probably the biggest issue with the perk system is, and I think that I even said this last time, because this was in Crew 2.0, and this increases the crew efficiency bonus by 2.5% if the amount of damage that you have assisted exceeds your initial hit points. So that means that if a player is in an EBR and you go ahead and start spotting, your view range actually increases once you have like 1,000 spotting damage. What? And this is going to be affected by Brothers in Arms. You notice that this is not saying the effect does not stack up. If I have other stuff going on, this is getting stacked. So my EBR, if I go ahead and just spot something, it becomes better. And it also means that the better players just become better in the game, which this perk shouldn't exist. Like, I know that they need to have a sick perk for symmetrical or symmetriality or whatever the word might be, but this ain't it. Like, this is just purely making something even more broken or even more better depending on how good you are at the game. So this should just be not a thing. And I said this last time, you shouldn't have this in the game. The worst thing is that I could just go and track someone for 1,000 damage or 2,000 damage or whatever it might be, and my hit points for a heavy tank, if I do that, then my heavy tank's better by 2.5% as well. So I really don't agree with this. Like, this one in particular, I really don't like. It's still, even from, it seems like they haven't learnt their lesson from the last time that they've done Crew 2.0, and this one is still here. And this one is my biggest problem with the changes. Now, signal intercepting it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. This will give you 2.5 seconds before you get notified that you've been spotted, rather than 3 seconds. I'm not going to lie, majority of the time I know that I'm spotted before my sixth sense even goes off. There's very rare times that I realise... the only time that I'd realise it is when I'm sitting in a bush or something as a light tank. Because the majority of the time, I'll know when I've been spotted. And even when I'm sitting in a bush, if a light tank comes up to me and he gets a bit close, I know that I'm probably going to get spotted. And I'm already starting to back off before my sixth sense even goes off. The sixth sense is kind of just there as a confirmation. And half a second is not really going to help me out too much. This should probably be maybe like -2 seconds. I don't actually know if that would be game breaking or not, if they made it 1 second. Because this would actually help out new players quite a bit. Because the experienced players could then just forgo this perk, because they already know most of the time. But then the newer players could pick this perk and actually learn the game a little bit more. And I don't think that 1 second delay of being notified that you've been spotted is that big of a deal. Maybe in some aspects, yes, but I wouldn't think that it would be game breaking. You have to let me know. But let's say that you're in a medium tank, and obviously you want Brothers in Arms, Concealment and Repairs. They're your 3 perks of choice, and then you would want to pick 3 perks from here. Well, I mean, at the moment, it'll be Radio Expert, Situational Awareness, and Firefighting. You only actually really get to choose one of these perks out of the lot. And at the moment, Radio Expert is by far the best thing out of all of these. Unless you're maybe a new player to pick that. But again, actually, no. Even for a new player, I wouldn't recommend this. This perk is irrelevant with only half a second. Being 2.5 seconds instead of 3, because it won't matter. This will not matter in its current state. So Radio Expert 100% is the one to pick. Unless you're in a heavy tank, then maybe side by side. So now that we've cleared out what all the perks are and discussed how they change from different things, the new perk system, the basics. So the maximum number of perks have been changed. We've already mentioned this. It's now going to be 6, and you'll get bonus perks depending on if that crew member has an additional qualification, and you'll get the extra 3 perks for that qualification. If you have 2, for example, like the Manticore, you would get a total of 12 perks. Obviously being 6 as the main, then a 3, and then a 3. And once again, saying about how if there are loaders, for example, being with an intuition, you would need both of them to be 100% trained for each one to get the full bonus of intuition. If you only have 1 trained, then you will only get 50% of intuition. There is also going to be removing the duplication of the secondary qualifications. For example, the 50B has no designated loader, but it actually has 3 crew members that have a loader. So if we go into this, you'll see that the commander, the gunner, and the radio operator all have the loader capability, which means that if you wanted to train intuition like I have, you would need it on 3 crew members to get it to the maximum amount. So after the change, it will only be on the gunner. It will be removed from the radio operator and removed from the commander. As you can see right here, after the new perk system is implemented, only the gunner will keep loader as their secondary qualification. Now, whether or not this is going to be the same for absolutely everyone, if they have, for example, 2 loaders on different crew members, I'm guessing maybe they'll just get rid of that entirely and just only have 1 loader as the additional one. That would make more sense, but we'll have to see. I'm guessing from what they've said, there is only going to be, if there are the secondary qualification, only 1 qualification will be there. So going back to that previous point of if there is 2 loaders, like on the 50B, there's 3, but if there was just 2, then one of them would be removed next patch. I'm guessing so. I say next patch, it's later on in the year. They haven't specified when this is coming out. And now we move on to the fate of the super experienced crew members. Now, obviously, this is just saying that once you reach the cap of 6 perks, you are then going to start earning for half your base XP, I believe. Yes, progress gains battle XP only. Half of this XP divided by the total number of crew members in their vehicle fills up this scale. I'm not even going to try and understand what that is. Okay, I'm no good with numbers, but whatever. Okay, you'll be able to gain universal crew books with no limit. Okay, as it says here, you can just infinitely do this and just keep getting universal crew books, which will go on any nation, any crew, no matter what you want to choose. So, for example, here you have a Projector 46 that you love playing. Keep playing it. You'll gain universal manuals. You could then use them on your mouse. Now, I don't know how much this means. For example, with my crew, okay, how much XP or crew books are they going to give me? Because I have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But those 7th and 8th are like 1 million XP or something to level it up. You used to be able to find out exactly how much you need. Either way, that 7th and 8th perk are massive XP sinks. Like, you have to play a lot of games to be able to get the 7th perk and the 8th perk. So I want to know how much XP or crew books that's actually going to equate to. Because let's say that this is, say, like 500k and then 1 million. So that's 1.5 million XP to level it up. Does that mean that it's then 1.5 million divided by 100k? Or is it like half of that? Not very easy to understand. I guess I'll just have to wait and see. But that could be a lot of crew books on this crew when it gets converted. Because that could end up being, like, just on one person, like 10 crew books. So that would be 10, 20, 30, 40 crew books, if that's the case. Just for this crew. Anyway, that is pretty much it. If you want to go and read this full article with how to test, you can sign up for testing as well down the bottom. As you can see, I've already submitted my application. And you can read through absolutely everything. This was a bit of a longer video, but there you go. You hopefully have more information about this. And let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all on the next one.